Welcome to the Can't Stop the Growth podcast, the home service podcast dedicated to personal and leadership development. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and if you're ready to grow as a leader, you've come to the right place. Let's jump in. Today we're going to talk a little bit, excited to talk about this. The topic today is talking about our philosophy on life. Now, as I was writing this, I'm like, philosophy on life, like you're going to get really deep here. This could go sideways quickly. And so what I wanted to do is kind of break that down. So when we talk about philosophy, it's not necessarily this big, pie in the sky term. It's essentially how we operate, right? It's how we approach each and every day that we live. Now, the interesting thing about this is how many times do we think about this? Oftentimes, our philosophy is somewhat automatic, right? There's a lot of situations in life that we react to automatically without thinking. Some good, and some probably not so good. And it isn't until we take inventory of those automatic responses do we start to understand what our philosophy is on life. So, take a minute. Have you thought about your philosophy? Have you written it down? Have you thought about when this situation approaches me in life, this is how I want to respond? This is how I want to show up. Now, for some of you that may mean yes, and for others it may, be a situation where no, I haven't thought about that. Well, wherever you are, that's perfectly fine. Hopefully what today will do is provide you some keys to take inventory of when developing your philosophy and or refining it if you already have one. And so the cool thing about a philosophy is it's not only how we act, it's more importantly how we think. Because in order to act, oftentimes we have to think about those situations that may not be so automatic. So we have our automatic responses that we have over time programmed ourselves to respond to those different situations. But there are oftentimes too, where we get a chance to think. And that comes into our philosophy on how we approach life, how we approach situations. And the important thing to remember about a philosophy is that it is ultimately going to influence your behavior. And your behavior is going to influence your habits. And so what we're going to dive into are those behavior principles that can influence our habits. Think about some of the behaviors that you have. When a negative situation presents itself, how do you react? When something positive happens, how do you react? When someone does something to you, how do you react? Oftentimes, we'll talk about, one of the pieces of advice I was given is, if someone sends you an email that, you want to respond in a negative fashion, it's probably best to sleep on it. Take a day. Take some time, and then your response will change over time. And I'm sure we've all had those days when we just think that nothing could possibly get worse, but ultimately we wake up the next day. And that next day, depending on our outlook, can either be better or we can get much of the same that we got the day before. And so it's important to understand, and we talk a lot about goals and, setting up different things in our life, whether it's a workout routine, an eating routine or a diet, just different things that we set up in our lives to kind of guide our behavior. And these ultimately influence our philosophy on life. So one of the things that I wanted to draw out today, mainly because it's come up here recently, is the understanding of why we set goals. So I feel like goals are very, very important as it relates to creating that philosophy, influencing that philosophy that we take into life. And if you'll remember I can't remember exactly when it was, but we were talking about goal setting and how to do that. I feel like I was in Lafayette when I did this one for some odd reason that comes to mind. But we were talking about goals and how whenever you first write down your goal, what you should then do is take a second look at it and just double it. And we talked about how that can sometimes be scary. Well, double it. Well, shoot, I wrote down what I thought I could achieve, and now you want me to double it. And the reason that we do that is because we have an understanding that goals are not meant to be achieved. That may sound weird. I'll say it again. Goals are not meant to be achieved. They're simply meant to influence our behavior. So, some of the feedback I've gotten recently is we set a huge goal this year for the company. Just a massive goal. And, we're 5 months in-ish, turning to summer when we get really busy. And the feedback I get is that people are frustrated. People are stressed out about this big goal that we set. Well, we can't get there. We don't have enough people. We're not going to make it. Well, how are we going to do this? Well, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. That is a reasonable response to a large goal, and we're nearing kind of the halfway point of the year. And people are seeing that, hey, I don't think we can do this. I don't know if we there's been times I've even said, like, literally I've done the math and a person can only do this much work in a day and we only have X amount of people, so it doesn't get us there. So it's easy to get frustrated when we view the goal as something we have to achieve. But that's not the purpose of that big goal. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to align our behavior as if we were going to achieve that goal. So I think about some of the things that I've done recently as it relates to, when I get this feedback, I have to take personal inventory. Am I thinking the same way? Am I getting frustrated that we can't get there? I'll tell you, yeah. I've sat many a days looking at my computer frustrated as hell. Like, we have the work there to do this. Like, the work is there, but we don't have enough people. We don't have the processes and the procedures to do it. I've been frustrated, and that's okay. But what we have to do is take a step back and understand, is our behavior in line with achieving that? What do I mean by that? Well, what would you need to be doing today in order to achieve that goal? What would it look like just to keep fighting towards it? What would that look like? Because what that's going to do is you have a set of actions where if you didn't have the goal, or if the goal was far less achievable, let's say, you probably wouldn't have those same actions, right? You probably wouldn't. If the goal is way out here, you're going to have a different action set to get there. And that's what we want to pull out. We want to pull out that behavior. We want to pull out those actions that are going to get us there. Well, what's that look like? Well, for me, knowing that we need people, I've recruited in the last 2 months probably harder than I've recruited in probably 4 or 5 years. Dan and I were on the phone last Friday with a plumber. I said, "Where does that guy go?" He goes, "I don't know. I haven't heard from him." I go, "Give me his number. I'll call him right now." Starts in a couple weeks. Because I know that one guy will help us. 2 weekends ago, I've got 2 kids, one throwing Pop-Tarts across the conference room, the other one drooling all over me, and we're interviewing service technicians. We're getting them. They're coming. You're going to start here. And I told them that when they entered the room. I said, I hope you're ready to work here because I'm not leaving until you sign up. But those are the things that I wouldn't have done if our goal wasn't way out there. Wouldn't have done them. I got the kids. No worries. That's the behavior. I know that hiring those 3 people are not going to get us to that goal alone. They're going to help, and you got to take that first step forward. So what is it in your life that you're aiming for, and what if you doubled that? What if you made that bigger? How would your actions change? And know that every step you take in the right direction is a good one, even if you don't reach that. It's those little things, it's that philosophy of understanding that there is within us the ability to achieve remarkable things. But we have to align ourselves to do that. You know, one of the other pieces of feedback, when we set these big goals, a lot of people will take that for, well, we're just trying to get bigger. We're just trying to, this is craziness. Yeah, it is. Because we want to do something different. We want to do something that no one's ever seen before. Now, are we going to make mistakes? Yeah, we're going to make some today. And that'll be okay. Because we're all aligned in the same direction. It's not do or die. Guess what? If we don't double, it'll be okay. We're going to all come to work on January 2nd and be just fine. And be in a really good place. But we're going to be in a better place because of where we were aiming. You know, unfortunately, over the last probably 4 or 5 years, we've hit our goal every single year, blown it out of the water. And so this year we said, well, we set a goal. And I said, well, I think we could do more. Well, we could probably do more. Well, shoot, put it on up there and let's see if we can go after this. Yeah, a lot of it looks somewhat impossible. But yet our actions look different. Our actions look different this year than they looked last year. They look different because of where we have set our sights, because of our philosophy, because of what we want to do. You know, your attitude as it relates to that big goal makes all the difference. Everybody's heard that, right? Your attitude makes all the difference. You know, I've never seen someone really succeed with a terrible attitude. If you have, well, you may want to shake their hand because that's pretty remarkable. So what is your attitude going to be in relationship to your goal? That is what shapes your philosophy. That is what shapes how you attack the world. And I say attack, and what I hope to get out of that is an urgency. Who's seen those people that just kind of mosey on through life? Here we go. What's up next? Next day. Versus those people who wake up and attack. They have a sense of urgency about them that is infectious. That you want to go follow. Like, God dang, I'm going to have another coffee. I want to get on that guy's level. Those are the people that set the pace. Those are the people that set the big goals and will one day achieve them. Guess what? I know we'll hit that goal. I know we will. Because we have a group of people here that has urgency, that wants to achieve things. Like, we get ourselves in trouble because we move so fast. My wife continually complains about it. You know, you could slow down. No, I can't. Why would we? We're attacking something that no one has ever done before. That's what we're attacking. Because we have it in us to be something that no one has ever seen before. That's what each of you have inside you, whether you know it or not, because it all comes down to your behavior, to your actions, to your philosophy. Now, today I want to touch on 5 choices that will help create that philosophy. So we've already talked about urgency. The first one that I'll talk about behavior that will help create your philosophy, that will help you achieve those large, sometimes seemingly impossible goals, is show up. Well, you guys all did that this morning, right? Show up. One of the quotes that I think about, and it seems like a lot of sports stars have latched onto it here recently as well, that I love about showing up, is a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. And it is from his speech that was deemed Man in the Arena. It's a longer quote, but I want to read it to you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Think about if you read that every morning. Where would your energy be? Are you willing to show up every single day? You know, one of the stories that I often tell, people often talk, and we'll do coming up here in June with Father's Day. Last year I did I think it was 7 things I learned from my dad about this business. And one of the things that I talk about is, we view the world very differently, myself and my dad. And that's okay. His way has worked, and I hope my way works too. That's what I'm going with. One of the things that, as I look back on, growing up and, the influences that I have, and the one thing that I hope to instill in my kids as well, is this behavior of showing up. Dad was always, there was not a morning, when I got older, he used to wake me up for school because I got up earlier, but when we were younger, I never saw him in the morning, at least, because he was always at work. Got to get up early. I had to go into work. I think that, I don't know that my dad in 36 years of business has ever called in sick. Showed up. Do you feel crappy some days? Yeah, probably. But he showed up every single day. And for me, that is one of the most important attributes and one of the most important things you can do to determine your success is simply showing up. Think about how many people you would beat out by just showing up. Think about how many people don't show up. Think about how many people get the sniffles and sit it on out. Cash it on in. Think about those people who just refuse. It's just not an option. They're going to be there come hell or high water. Think about those people in your life that exemplify that. They're always there. They always show up. It often seems like a bad day never happens to them. Do they get down? Yeah, absolutely. Does life hit them with crappy situations? Yeah, everybody does. But they continue to show up. They continue to be there. Because oftentimes, being there is more than half the battle. Show up, be ready, take on the day. In our pursuit of who we want to be, our philosophy should even shape those days when we rest. If you have a goal of continuing to get better and continuing to strive forward, yeah, I'm not up here saying you need to work every single day, but what if you woke up tomorrow and got 10 pages of reading in, or got a quick walk around the neighborhood, or whatever it is? Those little things that are in line with your philosophy, that are in line with who you want to be. I oftentimes think about this in terms of, one of the biggest challenges of my life, and probably I would assume some of yours, is parenting, right? There is no off day in being a parent. There are some days when people watch your kids and it does feel like an off day, but there is no off day. You're constantly setting the example, constantly helping to develop them, feeding them, watching them, putting them to bed, giving them a bath. All of those things require us to show up every day. Because ultimately we know that one day they'll emulate what we do, what they saw, what was ingrained in them from a very young age. Number 2 is not only show up, but as I said with parenting, show up every single day. The true power in any behavior is consistency. You have to be consistent. And the one thing that I have learned when it comes to starting a new behavior or starting a new habit is start small. If your goal is to start working out, don't set it as I'm going to work out for 3 hours a day. It's never going to happen. If you can find 3 hours of time to do that, then great. That's step 1. And then you got to do it. It's step 2. Good luck. But what does 20 minutes look like? Can you carve out 20 minutes a day? When it comes to reading, can you carve out time to read 10 pages a day? Can you be consistent with it? Because consistency ultimately ingrains it in us to be that automatic habit. Without consistency, nothing becomes habit. It just becomes something you did yesterday. And you may not do it again. What does it look like to build that consistency? What are things in your life right now that would be far better if you had some consistency? What do you need to change in your life to add that consistency? Are you consistent in your thoughts? Do you swing wildly from super positive to super negative to all over the place? Think about these things, because ultimately that is going to influence your behavior and your habits, is that consistency. Number 3, a positive outlook, always. This is a tough thing to do, right? Be positive always. Now, I'm not advocating for people to be walking around with a smile on their face all the time, just happy-go-lucky all the time and act like nothing bothers them. Life's going to hand you some crappy situations. You're going to have some bad days. Things are going to go wrong. But it is what we do and how we respond to those situations which ultimately determines our success. How do you respond to the things that happen on a daily basis? What does that look like for you? How do you handle disappointment? How do you handle a broken process? How do you handle a call that goes bad? How do you handle a customer that just wasn't interested? How do you handle someone on your team just not getting it or struggling with something? I talked about in an email that I sent out Monday about being in a funk. Probably over the last 2 weeks, I have found myself in this. And the main reason is there is around here a lot of frustration with communication. And it's a growing pain. You go from 50 people to 100 people to 300 people to almost 500 people. Like, it gets difficult. And that frustration has got the best of me because I have left here over the last 2 weeks more frustrated than I ever have been, simply because I was unable to see a solution to this. Like, how in the world are we going to fix this? Like, it's not even like a broken process. It's just literally physically we can't tell everybody everything in a timely manner. And so people get frustrated because they don't know things, or they didn't realize that changed, or whatever it is. And it has just left me literally exhausted. Like, to the point where my wife is like, "Are you okay? Like, you are like sleeping like all the time." I'm like, "I can't figure this out. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of like losing control because we can't communicate across this. Like, I don't know how to do it. Like, do I just send out emails all day long to people? I don't know what to do." And it wasn't until preparing for this the other day that it finally hit me. It finally hit me that I was viewing this whole thing as a giant problem. And there had to be a solution, right? I just got to figure it out. Like, I've been calling people that, are in big organizations. I've been calling my friends like, "Hey, you guys are all remote. Like, how do you communicate? How do you know what's going on? What's that look like in your company? Like, we're struggling. I can't figure this out." But guess what? There is no solution. There's only an opportunity to learn. And what I have found out over the last couple of days is that this, what I viewed as a problem, is a huge opportunity. A huge opportunity. Because guess what? There are tons and tons of things that we can do to better communicate. And without that frustration, without that so-called problem, we would have continued on just like we are until it reached a point, a breaking point probably, where people got so frustrated that they decided to leave. But we're not going to let that happen because we're going to view it as an opportunity to get better. We've already started. sent out an email yesterday or the day before about openings in the company. That was one of the things people were frustrated about. I don't know when these job openings are coming up, and there's so many new positions and things are happening, and I don't know where we're going, and what the hell, I would have applied for that if I would have known it was open, and this, that, and the other. And it sparked us to, well, why don't we just send out an email every week that highlights what positions are open and what's going on, and draw attention to the career page. And there's plenty of job openings, trust me. You got some friends, send them our way. But that was a huge opportunity. I think that's gonna be a good thing. You know, today I'm working on a video that I'm gonna start sending out every week to our operations team that basically is just a brain dump of what's going on in my head. Here's what we're doing. Here's the update on this. Here's what's going here. Here's who we're meeting with in here. And someone asked me well, do you want us to feed you that information? I was like, no, I think it'll actually be better, because if I don't know about it, that's probably something that the whole team doesn't need to know. But if I do, if it's come to my attention, that's probably good information to share, just to let everybody know, just give them a heads up. Not that they're going to do anything with it, but can we have a 2 to 3 minute video that will just literally give an update on the new building, give what we're looking at as far as new positions to hopefully make things easier, what our outlook is for the summer, what we're doing over here, all of these things that are in my head or that I'm loosely aware of or that I know people are working on. And it'd probably be nice if they knew it. It'd probably make better decisions. Probably just feel more, oh, cool. That's what's going on there. And there's tons more opportunities for us to get better at that. Communication is always going to be an opportunity for us. It's not a problem. And so long as we don't view it as a problem, we can continue to get better at it. We can keep it top of mind to make sure that everybody is in the loop. Are we going to let everybody know everything? No, we're going to forget some stuff. We're going to forget to tell somebody something. But so long as we're pushing towards that goal, we're going to keep making it better. It's never going to be perfect. But it took me, isn't that funny? I write an email. I've said this before, most of these talks are for me selfishly. I need to prepare in order to get myself oftentimes out of a funk or in the right headspace. And this one did wonders for me. I woke up this morning, reviewed my notes, feeling good. We're going to make some strides. But for the last 2 weeks, I have not been pleasant. So sorry if we've had an interaction and it didn't go well. This has really bothered me. Really bothered me. Nothing really, it's just because there was no solution. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Usually I got an idea. Hell, I throw my 2 cents in. It's usually not right either, but hey, everybody's got an opinion, right? The other thing that I fell off doing that I think led me to this was I fell off writing to my kids. And I started back this week, and it is amazing how much that helps. And it's those little things that you don't think make a difference until you stop doing them. And I just got busy and just didn't think it just fell off the thing. And so I got back into it this week, and I always start out, mainly because I want to instill this habit into them as they read these when they get older, is it always starts out with 3 things that I'm grateful for. And when it comes to having a positive outlook, when it comes to viewing things as an opportunity rather than a problem, the best medicine that I have found is to think about those things that you are grateful for. I started thinking about this morning, and I was like, you have literally been stressed out about communicating with your peers. And on a serious note, there are people today that will wake up and their goal, their problem is to find fresh drinking water. I was like, wow, that hit you like a ton of bricks. And you think about that. We all know that that's happening, right? We all know that, heck, there's a war going on right now. Think about what those people woke up to this morning. We got to wake up, probably a nice cool house. Hopefully you got your AC on. I got mine on. I can't sleep when it's hot. Probably had some breakfast, nice coffee, drove to work, got this nice facility. All of these things, just even the smallest things. You're able to drive to work in a car. That'll get you thinking about opportunities as opposed to problems. Because when you start to think about all of the things that you are grateful for, it's really hard to get in a bad mood, isn't it? Like, again, try that. Try to list out 3 or 4 things that you're grateful for and then try to really have like a crappy attitude after that. It'd be really difficult. I'm sure there's people out there that can do it, but I would bet that you can't. Understand what you have in front of you. We have an unbelievable opportunity. An unbelievable opportunity to make an impact today. Always be taking inventory of how blessed we are to have the problems that we have. Because at the end of the day, we can learn something from everything that happens to us. As I said in my email this morning, life has its ups and downs. We wouldn't be able to enjoy the ups without the downs. But the downs are a lot more tolerable if we choose to learn from them. If we choose to make the best out of them. Because you can't change them. They're going to happen. Number 4. So we've talked about show up with consistency, positive outlook, and number 4, a 2020 vision. Motivation, just like today, you may leave here with a sense of motivation and ready to tackle the world. But guess what? That'll fade. That'll go away. You'll forget about what we talked about. Even if you took something and wrote it down and got really clear on it, you'll forget, as we all do. Because life will make us forget. But what you can't forget, what you have to make sure is so clear in your mind, is your vision for where you want to go. That will guide your philosophy. That is what will pull you along the ups and downs of life, is where you want to go. As many of you know, we do this for the company every year. And in that exercise, when I do that, I've tried to explain this before, but it is so vivid in my mind of what that looks like. I can see it. I mean, a lot of you probably just see the walls over on that building. I can see exactly how it looks, how it feels, what it's going to do, how it's going to operate, people moving in and out of it. I can already see all of that because that's the vision that we wrote down. That's what I spend time thinking about every day, of what that's going to look like, how many lives that's going to impact. There's going to be a time in probably a year and a half where we're going to have almost 100 people in school in that building, learning a trade. It gives me the goosebumps. How cool is that? That's what we're doing. We're doing something that no one's ever seen done before. But we're doing it because our vision is so strong, because our vision is so clear. The one thing that vision will help you do, and one of the reasons why I think we move so fast, is a result of our vision. Because when you can see it, the minor details are inconsequential. Like they just happen. And you just keep moving. Because you want to get to where what you're seeing, what that looks like. It also helps you through the down times. Because you know they're going to happen, but you know that you want to keep pushing towards that. Because that's what you've drawn in your mind. That is what is so clear that you just want to get there. It helps you get over those, what seem like just insurmountable bad things. It helps you get over those really quickly. Because you know that it's just part of it. You just got to keep going. We run into it every day. There's going to be things that go bad here. There's going to be things we're going to get in, we're going to get into some tight situations. Step through a ceiling. Let's hope not. Maybe not, at least today. Knock on wood. Things are going to happen, but we're going to keep moving. So what is that vision that you hold for yourself? What does that look like? Maybe it's just a vision of the person you want to be by the end of the year. What does that person act like? What's that person think? What's that person think on a daily basis? Do they let small hurdles get in their way, or do they keep moving? Do you have something you want to accomplish by the end of the year? Is it a sales goal? Is it a promotion? Whatever that is, start thinking about it. Start thinking about it every day. Start thinking about it when you drive. Think about it when you wake up. Think about it when you go to sleep. Write it down. You write it down, it'll happen. It has to, right? You have the choice to do it. And if you keep pushing, you'll get there. Think about something you've accomplished in your life that you're really proud of, that you like to think about. What did it take to get there? What work did you have to put in order to accomplish that? More than likely, that new goal, that new person you want to be, you know how to get there. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. You know how to do it. That's the frustrating part, right? You know how to get there. If you want to lose 10 pounds, you know how to do it. You want to read more, you know how to do it. But you can't wait to simply be motivated. You've got to draw that picture of what the future looks like, because that is the most powerful motivation that you'll ever have, is an understanding of what it will look like. Not what it could look like, what it will look like. Number 5, be willing to pay the toll. Now, we all know that in order to achieve something, oftentimes we must give up something. We must make a sacrifice. But as we talked about with consistency, that sacrifice is not often huge. We may think it is in the grand scheme of things. We may think, oh my God, I could never do that. But what if it was just waking up 20 minutes earlier to get your 10 pages of reading in? Doesn't seem like that big of a sacrifice. Is that 20 minutes going to kill you? Probably not. 20 minutes seems a hell of a lot easier than an hour. So start with 20 minutes. Sacrifice that sleep for a little bit of learning. Sacrifice that big Polar Pop Coke for a water. It's not a huge sacrifice. Does it taste better? Yeah, absolutely. This doesn't taste like anything. It's those small incremental changes that one less cup of coffee, that one less helping at dinner, that extra 5 pages of reading, that listening to a podcast in the car instead of the radio. All of these little things start to add up. They are the toll. They are the price that you pay to become the person that you aspire to be. It's all about little sacrifices. Don't think big. Big is intimidating. Think small. That may seem weird to say, right? We're at a growth talk. And I just said, don't think big, think small. The big comes by those small sacrifices, those small changes. You know, one of the, I'll finish up with this story here. So one of the things I was explaining to someone who's new to our company that comes from a smaller company, and he's working to make some changes and stuff. And I think this story relates perfectly to our company now. And I talked to you about the communication piece and different things like that. But, you know, the one thing that I fight against every day is speed. We want speed. Speed is it's the secret weapon to move fast. But what we've learned, and what I was explaining to this gentleman who came from a smaller company, is in a smaller company, when we were small, we make changes every day. We're making changes, did something different tomorrow. We're going to find the best way. We're changing here, changing there, doing this. Because you only had to tell 3 people. They were sitting in the same damn office. You could make changes like that. But when you've got almost 500, you can't do that. And to me, it's very, very similar to what we're talking about today. Because now, and what I was explaining to him, now we make very small changes, and it takes a long time, right? It's frustrating. It's like, God, I'd love to roll this out. It could make a huge impact like tomorrow if we could do this. But you can't, because there's 8 other departments that need to be on the same page before you roll this change, or else you're gonna have some angry people coming to your door if you do it. Well, a lot of that is very similar to this. It's just taking your time, small changes, thinking it out, moving, because this vision that we see, that's the compound effect. of these small changes, much like what we get here. When we want to make a change, yes, if we made this change tomorrow, would it make an effect? Yes. But if we take our time and we train all the technicians and we go through some practice and we really take our time and we roll it out, the compound effect happens because we can do it with 100 technicians. And the same thing happens with your growth. When you take these small incremental steps, what happens is a compound effect. Why? Because when we're setting goals, these small changes create habits, create different behaviors. And all of a sudden, you start acting like that automatically. You start viewing problems as opportunities. You start showing up. You start showing up consistently. A positive attitude is no problem. Because over time, you've taken these small steps. If you're not one with a super positive attitude, guess what? You're not going to have one tomorrow. But you can make a step in having one tomorrow. You can maybe take a situation today where you would have reacted negatively and put a positive spin on it. Would you see immediate success? Probably not. But if you did that over the course of a month, do you think you'd see success next month? My guess is yeah, you would. Think small change. What is something in your life that you can start doing, or sometimes more importantly, stop doing, to draw yourself closer to the person that you want to be, to draw yourself closer to that vision of who you're going to be in the future? We all have it within us. But it starts with our philosophy. And our philosophy is built on our behaviors and our habits. Take time this weekend. Take time as you're driving to think about, close your eyes, not when you're driving, but when you're sitting, preferably. Take time and think about what it is that you want to be. We're never too old to start dreaming. Write it down. A dream becomes reality when you write it down. And then you can start working towards it. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, I would greatly appreciate if you would rate the show or share it with someone who might enjoy it. As the name suggests, we are always looking to grow, so let me know in the comments what you thought and if there is anything you would like to hear on future episodes. Come back again soon, and always keep growing out there.